What if the very thing you've been chasing is what's been leading you away from yourself? We live in a world obsessed with ascent. Climb higher, move faster, win bigger. The message is clear: fulfillment waits at the top. But no one tells you what happens when you get there. No one tells you that you can reach the summit, hit the target, earn the title, check every box, and still feel like something's missing. That success without meaning is just a decorated kind of emptiness. Maybe you've felt it, that quiet ache between your victories. That whisper in the silence after achievement, a voice that says, "This isn't it, not yet." There's an old Persian myth of a bird called the Simurgh, a creature of fire and truth who lives atop a sacred mountain. Many set out to find it, desperate for wisdom, but those who reach the peak find only a mirror. Because the real journey wasn't upward, it was inward. And maybe that's your story too. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." And that's what most of us are doing, not climbing for purpose, but running from ourselves. Scaling mountains built from expectation, not authenticity. You see, there's a difference between movement and meaning, between rising and awakening, because motion can distract you, productivity can seduce you. Even self-improvement can become a trap if you're still climbing to escape your reflection. But this is the moment the mountain changes. This is the moment you stop chasing someone else's summit and start hearing the call of your own. Not the one made from accolades, but from ache. Not built on applause, but on the truth you buried beneath survival. And here's the paradox. The higher you climb without listening, the further you drift from what matters most. So maybe this isn't a call to rise. Maybe it's a call to return to the mountain that has always been waiting for you, quietly in the fog. Because this climb, it's not about conquering, it's about becoming so honest that nothing false can follow you up. This isn't a race, it's a remembering. And it begins now, with you and the whisper that won't go away. Maybe you've started again. Maybe you felt the whisper and chose not to ignore it this time. There's fire in your chest now, not ambition but alignment. And knowing that this path, the one no one can see, is yours. And it begins like all great climbs with quiet resolve. The trail feels different, it's less crowded, quieter. You're not chasing applause anymore. You're not performing your progress. You're moving, not to impress, but to feel. At first it's beautiful. You start releasing what you don't need. The masks, the metrics, the noise. You breathe deeper, you walk slower, and you begin to think, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the real summit, but the mountain isn't done with you yet. You arrive at a plateau. It looks like a peak, feels like one. Others might even cheer from below. Look how far you've come, they say. And for a moment you believe them. You look around, the view is nice, the air is still, but something isn't right. It's too quiet, too easy. And you begin to hear it again, that same whisper from before. But now it's not calling you upward, it's calling you inward. Because the most dangerous part of the journey isn't the steep climb, it's the false arrival. The moment you mistake comfort for truth, the plateau for the peak. Buddhist monks say the first mountain teaches strength, the second teaches surrender. And this second mountain, it doesn't want your hustle, it wants your honesty. It doesn't want your certainty, it wants your shedding. Because there's a storm coming. And it will ask you to give up everything you thought would save you. Your breath catches, the path narrows, the terrain shifts. You begin to feel the truth in your bones. This is where the climb really begins. The part without applause, the part without shortcuts. The part where your feet hurt, your lungs burn, and your past starts whispering doubts. Your hands tremble as they grip stone, the wind cuts sharper. You taste snow in the air, and still you climb, not for victory, not for recognition, but because something deeper is pulling you now, not higher, but deeper into yourself. You're not climbing to arrive anymore. You're climbing to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. And the higher you go, the more you realize you are not alone. You are not the only one who's felt lost on the mountain. And maybe, just maybe, someone else is following your footsteps right now. Not looking for your answers, but listening for your truth. Keep going. You reach it, the place you thought would bring peace. You've climbed with discipline, let go of distractions, chosen a quieter path. And now you stand still, high above where you started, expecting something to land inside you, something final. You breathe it in. The sky opens. The world below looks small, but something is missing. You set down your pack, stretch your back. The wind brushes your skin like a memory, but there's no thrill in it. Just quiet, just cold. You try to feel proud, but there's no pulse behind the moment. Only a silence that hums with confusion. This is what no one warns you about. So that success without alignment doesn't feel like triumph. It feels like loss in disguise. And here, at the edge of what was supposed to be fulfillment, you face the question most people spend their lives avoiding. Why doesn't it feel like enough? You wanted the Simurgh. You found a mirror. You've reached the false summit. The mountaintop that looks like arrival but feels like amnesia. You've come this far, but somehow you feel further from yourself than ever before. It's the illusion of arrival, where the view is stunning but the meaning is gone. You remember Jung's words, the greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parent. Maybe this summit was someone else's dream. Maybe you were handed a map the world calls success, but your soul never signed off on it. So you look around. The peak is real. But the connection is not. You thought peace waited here. Instead, you feel the whisper again, faint but unmistakable. The same one you heard before the first step. Only now it's not calling you higher, it's calling you deeper. Most people turn back here, or distract themselves with a new goal. They chase the next shiny summit, hoping it will redeem the hollowness of the last one. But you stay. And in the silence, a truth lands that no applause could offer. You were never meant to climb to escape yourself. You were meant to climb to return to yourself. So you pick up your pack, not because you're empty, but because you're ready. This wasn't the end. It was the real beginning. It starts with a slip, not dramatic, not loud. Just a subtle shift, an unexpected crack in your footing. You catch yourself, heart pounding. And then it happens again. The wind picks up. The clouds roll in. The warmth drains from your skin. You thought you'd already done the hard part. But this isn't effort. This is undoing. The storm doesn't punish. It purifies. The sky fractures. The cold bites. Your breath shortens. And the trail, once solid beneath your feet, dissolves into mud and mist. You can't see where you're going anymore. The path is gone, the map useless. And here in this brutal clarity you meet yourself, not the polished version. Not the climber with answers. But the one who's afraid, the one who's tired. The one who has no more masks left to wear. This is the place Jung called the confrontation with the shadow, when everything you repressed rises, not to shame you, but to be seen. Here come the doubts you outran, the grief you buried beneath performance, the anger you pretended was strength. And when it hits, it's not poetic, it's not cinematic, it's raw. You fall to your knees, not because you're weak, because there's nothing left to protect. And in that surrender, something sacred cracks open. You begin to understand the real climb was never about the peak. It was about this. Being stripped of everything false until the only thing left is real. You feel the cold bite of air on your skin. The wind howling like memory. Your lungs ache, your legs tremble, and still you don't collapse. Something steadier than courage keeps you upright. Not willpower, but grace. You remember the Bodhisattva, the enlightened one who returns to help others climb. Not because they need recognition, but because they've seen the storm and survived. That's the power now rising in you. Not the power of control, the power of compassion. And through the noise, through the chaos, you hear it again, the whisper. Not a call to rise, a call to return. To something softer than ambition. To something stronger than certainty. And when the storm passes, and it will, you won't be the same. Because storms don't return what they take. They give you back what you forgot you had. You don't know you've reached it at first. There's no banner. No cheering, no spotlight, just a stillness that doesn't ask for attention and a quiet breath that feels like coming home. Because this summit doesn't feel like triumph, it feels like truth. There's no rush to capture the moment, no need to prove it. The air is thin, but you're breathing deeper than you ever have. You've lost so much to get here, illusions, personas, goals that weren't yours. But what's left is real, and that is more than enough. You remember how it all began, the need to rise, to be seen, to conquer, and then the crash. The storm, the unraveling of every version of yourself that you clung to for survival. All of it burned away, now something quieter speaks. You realize this mountain was never external, it was never about the peak. It was about becoming the kind of person who no longer needs one. Jung called it individuation, the process of integrating every part of yourself into wholeness. Not perfection, wholeness, where the shadow is no longer exiled. Where your gifts no longer need validation to be offered. You're not flawless here, you're authentic. And that changes everything. Because from here you don't just see the horizon, you see behind it. You see the plateaus you mistook for peace. The summits that were really traps, the years you thought you were climbing when you were actually just running. And yet you forgive yourself, because even the false summits served their purpose. They brought you to the storm, and the storm brought you here. There's a concept in Japanese culture called ikigai, your reason for being. It isn't found in what you achieve. It's found in the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what makes you come alive. And now you understand your climb wasn't just about freedom. It was about finding a way to lift others with you. Because no matter how high you rise, meaning doesn't come from standing above. It comes from turning back and offering your hand. You begin to notice something else now, faint footprints in the snow. Someone has followed. Not to copy your path, but to believe that theirs is possible. You've become what you never had, not a guru, not a hero, a guide. Not because you reached the top, but because you finally remembered who you were before you ever needed to. And that memory, that's the real summit. You turn not to look down, but to look back, and what you see isn't distance, it's transformation. Not the terrain, but who you became through it. You see the self who started confused and driven. The self who fell, the one who doubted, the one who screamed in the storm. You see all of them. And you love them because they brought you here. And now something unexpected stirs inside you. You don't want to stand alone at the peak. You want to share it. You remember what Tony Robbins said, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And you know now that fulfillment doesn't live at the top. It lives in contribution, in presence, in being the kind of person who walks beside others when their legs start to shake. You recall the Sherpas of the Himalayas, not the ones who race for records, but the ones who rise every morning to help others reach heights they might never touch alone. They don't need the summit to matter. They are the summit for someone else. And maybe that's the quiet miracle no one talks about. That the greatest elevation isn't found in rising above, it's in returning with wisdom. Not to teach, but to walk. You hear the whisper again, the one that started everything. But it's changed now. It's not calling you up. It's calling you in and forward. Toward a life not built on proving, but on becoming. On living with such depth and presence that others feel braver simply by standing near you. So ask yourself, before this story ends, what mountain are you climbing? And who are you bringing with you? Leave it behind if it was never yours. Let it go if it's only made of noise. And listen again. The whisper is still there. But now it sounds like you.